Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with CitNOW Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bogert. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I would start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Well, I want to get your views now on where the industry has evolved. We know there's the rise and fall, and let's see what happens with the disruptors, the Carvanas in the States, Cazoo. I got to say, with Cazoo, they floated, was it 6.5 billion on New York Stock Exchange? Last time I looked, they're worth 60 million. I might have that wrong, but not a lot there. I don't know if they're going to survive. I'm not sure. I don't know if they are the disruptors at all anyway, but I want to get your views. Is a car salesperson still going to be relevant in the future? Let's just look at AI. And it blows my mind with some of the AI stuff we're doing. And we're not just talking about chat, okay, because so many people are using chat now in a dealership. But with AI, I got to tell you, do we need a service, a bookings person anymore? When you got AI can do this, do we need salespeople that can do a lot better? I got to say, one company I'm speaking to, they're in a call center environment. They're transcribing their top salespeople and everything they say to the customer all the time on all their emails, all their phones, and why they're top salespeople. They're now asking AI to say, this is what good looks like, okay, because we know it works. And then, do they actually need those salespeople? So I suppose the question at the end of this is there a future for car salespeople in the motor trade? Are we still relevant?
Yeah, that's the longest question you've asked.
Yes.
So in just bite-sized chunks, the disruptors will always be there, whether they are called this name or that name. There's always going to be somebody out there that's going to attempt to disrupt a particular industry. These particular disruptors, I think what happened is that, in all fairness, we demonstrate, I say we because it's in my blood. I've been 40 years in the car industry. You know, it's in our blood that we as an industry are really good at adapting. So I think that the disruptors created a platform for everybody else to go and adapt themselves. I think COVID then changed the landscape a little bit, and everybody had to accelerate. We've seen a massive acceleration in digitization and, you know, the change of the way that people would communicate. So I think, to an extent, COVID definitely amplified that quite a lot. I think with respect to things like AI, I mean, we have one of the businesses we bought recently originally it was a live chat platform, and it then essentially re-established themselves as a conversation platform. So we have and we do have the concept, not so much of AI. I'll talk specifically about that in a minute, but actually trying to make things like service bookings. You don't need AI to make service bookings. You just need decision tree mapping, you know, yes, no, do this, that, and the other. And I feel that within the portfolio of products that we've got, so RTC, our vehicle health check product, we can do online service bookings in there. With the Web One-on-One platform, which is a conversation platform, we can do online check-in, and we can help customers to book their cars in for service. So that, to an extent, is about as far as we've gone. There is always going to be a left and a right view about AI. Some of it's going to be wonderful, you know, rose-tinted glasses, all that kind of stuff about the future and what we can possibly do. And then there's going to be the negative side of it. And what we will see in the press is all the negatives, everything that goes wrong, why it might go wrong, who gets sacked for this, who does this, that, and the other. There is definitely a place for AI. And will it replace the people that we think? I don't believe so. No, I think what should happen first is that, what should happen in the way that this industry is put together is that we need to help salespeople and service advisors to become more efficient. That's one of the biggest things that we need to try and do. And for every salesperson that's listening on this podcast, and for every service advisor that's listening, your biggest challenge is always time, and being in the right place at the right time as a car salesperson, but being able to, you know, as a service advisor, being able to contact the customer. And this communication channel is, in our opinion, it's a big opportunity from a a technology perspective, can we enable that conversation to be more readily achieved or happen in the channel that the customer wants it to happen in? So whether that be in WhatsApp, whether it's text message, whether it's email, whether it's a phone call, whatever it needs to be, whatever the consumer's choice is, that's the big play. I don't think, to try and cap your question, I don't think that AI is, I don't think it's anything like good enough at the moment to be front of house. I think that AI back of house, and we know retailers that are using it today to try and help, write adverts for use, try and bring together data inside an organization. Absolutely. But customer facing, I'd be very, very concerned if I had some AI that was customer facing, that certainly in today's society.
Yeah, I again, at the last NADA conference, there was a lovely guy called Ben who showed me through some AI what was doing on a service inquiry and emailing the customer backwards and forwards, and it's quite impressive. But there must be some point there that AI, a human needs to take over. I know a customer thinks they're speaking to a human there, and there was some very, very impressive stuff there. But be interesting to see. I think we've all got with chat an assistant now that can help us do lots of different things, but you still need to go through it and see what's there.
Even thinking on that, I don't think that many of us, I'm sure, have been on a website of a particular high street store on some kind of, whether it's a supplier of some description, and trying to go through a chat that may say, my name is X, how can I help you? And you still can't get the question answered because you're trying to ask something that's not in their list of approved questions. So the human being, and actually our dealer desk business, which is in Germany, does just this. It's a support mechanism for the retailers. So where the retailer can't handle an inbound telephone call, inbound email, or of any description, any communication with the retailer that they can't answer within a particular dedicated amount of time, that the dealer desk team pick that inquiry up and answer it on behalf of the retailer. And that's just what they do in Germany. It's very much a very Germanic platform, but it's putting a human being in that process, and it's been particularly successful.
Well, I suppose it's back to video where people buy people. I like the idea of that. But again, some of the stuff that we see coming through, and it's changing so quickly. I just want to get your views on how much you're looking at AI across the businesses, because it's there when it's not going to go away. We just need to see how it can integrate into what we're doing.
Yeah, so we are. We can't ignore the fact that is it's a piece of technology that's out there that people are talking about, and it's really hit the market by storm in the last 12 months. We are, and it would be unwise of me to give you all of the trade secrets about what we're doing, but it's fair to say that we're looking for the most, we're looking for something that's going to help the retailers to either to sell more or to save more time. It's got to be one of the two. There's no point in just putting a piece of technology into the industry that just costs retailers more money and they don't get any impact for it. And I think that over the next, if you take the after sales environment over the next 10 years, and we start to see absorption percentage come down, electrification coming into the workshop, well, there's only a couple of things that the dealerships can do. They've either got to try and keep hold of older vehicles in the workshop, or they've got to find a way to find some efficiencies. And the efficiencies have got to come from helping retailers to not spend as much money. So our RTC platform, for example, are going completely paperless. And if you can put a complete paperless environment into a workshop, there's an awful lot of money that you can save just on print cartridges. It's literally it's as basic as that. But then you can build it out all the way to the right, and you can say, okay, if I've got 4 service advisors who are looking after just too many customers and they can't give them the level of customer experience that they need to get, and that customer experience is really important for the next time the customer wants to visit the dealership, to wow them, then open up the forms of communication. We've got a WhatsApp platform that allows a consumer to talk to the retailer, and with the BMW environment, so BMW retailers, and we're just launching it in the UK, so don't all queue up, but we've launched it with the fact that the BMW consumer can talk to the retailer through the My BMW app. and they don't need to do anything. They just need that the retailer can start the conversation off with the consumer. Well, clearly, they need to have the manufacturer's application installed on their phone. But, one of the things the manufacturers have been looking for some time is the reason for these manufacturer applications to be valuable to the consumer. We've all got these apps on our phone. We know that it can open the car, maybe you can turn the air conditioning on, tell us where we've parked. But can I have a conversation with my retailer through the application? Yes, you can. Well, all of a sudden, it's now more valuable. So that kind of technology, Simon, as far as we're concerned, is aiding towards customer experience. And you offer more customer experience. You enrich that customer experience with I would like to go back there because I knew that if I needed to speak to the service advisor, guess what? I could talk to them through the application.
Yeah. I suppose I want to go back in time. So I'm 49 at the moment. So 50 later on in July. And John Starmer, a great guy I started off in the motor trade with, he had 2 card files on his desk. Now, this is a guy that sold so many cars, but 2 card files, and it was as simple as 1 to 31, and then January to December. And he had 2 colored cards in there, Alistair, one for a sold customer and one for a prospect who's working on. I mean, this is off the arc, this system, okay? But every hour in the morning, you couldn't speak to Johnny Starmer because he'd just go through his cards and stay in touch with his customers every 6 months. It's what we've heard in the motor trade all our lives, okay? And people used to come and wait for John, like waiting at a dentist, sitting at the chairs there. My sales manager would say, go and help some of John's customers there. And they said, no, we'll wait for John. We'll wait for John. And he wasn't selling when he had contact every 6 months. It was just the clocks are going backwards or forwards, or he'd be talking about a new car's launched. It's probably not for you and Mary, but I thought I'd keep you informed there. But what happened is he was the friend in the trade. And I see it in a company out in America that's saying, the beauty of AI is it can just stay in touch with that customer all the time from John Starmer, because we don't get salespeople to do it. Very few salespeople do it in the modern world there. So it'd be interesting to see if it works. It'd be interesting to see if the customer says, well, hold on, this AI is not actually Johnny Starmer though. So it's definitely an interesting time. We'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah, no, I don't think the GDPR has definitely not really helped in that respect. And I also think that consumers, they're not necessarily as loyal to a particular as they used to be. And I think it's harder because unfortunately, those salespeople, there's not many of them around. If you're visiting a dealership, you bought the same car for the dealership for the last X number of years, there won't be many salespeople that are still there. And I think that's part of the challenge.
It is actually part of the challenge. People seeing it as their own business within a business. I suppose it's not just the motor trade. People having a job for life, does it happen anymore? I suppose people are more transient. So talking about the future of the motor trade, then the sales agency model. There can't be too many of these podcasts or sitting down with investors and people saying, Simon, what do you think is going to happen with agency? I think agency is a flood that's coming. The podcast that's had the most views on this Selling the Podcast interview was James Vortman, who was talking about what happened with Mercedes-Benz in Australia, court case out there where I think something like 90% of the dealers took their manufacturer to court. I want to get your views on how the agency model is going to really affect the investor out there.
Listen, I can give you my personal opinion. It's very difficult, this one. We can take, and we've got to go through different hypotheses. I'm sorry, I'm probably not going to give you a straight answer. Our hypotheses are that we have to believe that agency is going to work. Mm-hmm. If we don't, then the technology that we're going to bring to market is going to just be too late. There's no point, and I'm not convinced that the manufacturer will go so far with the software that they make available to the retailer network. I don't want to start bringing out some manufacturer names, but there's only a few in the UK that are in agency at the moment, and therefore it's more challenging for us to try to be wholly predict the future. But one hypothesis is we have to accept that it works, and we have to make available technology to help the retailer to stop double keying, which is really what this is all about. And if we then start to think about, what happens with those non-genuine agency environments, so people who are going to go part way there, well, then again, it's about how can we then make software available to work in that environment. And the big the big platform that people are talking about is Salesforce. And we've been working with Salesforce for the last 2 years. We're an ISV partner. We have built out all of our CitNOW applications. So CitNOW Sales, CitNOW Workshop are in the Salesforce app marketplace. We are just finishing off the RTC adapter into the Salesforce app marketplace. So people using Salesforce that are using our portfolio products are going to be able to bring all of the data, all the rich data that we've got into their Salesforce environment to create this one view of the customer. Now, we think that is a universally available product, whether you go agency, whether it's a retailer group doing their own thing, or whether it's somebody deciding that they really want the whole Salesforce environment, but they don't, maybe it's a single retailer, a couple of retailers together, but they're really challenged over trying to make all that investment themselves and build everything out. You just probably don't want to be building everything if you're going to be just a small investor. So we have to have these buckets, these channels, these lanes of information that make it available so that if we're talking to this manufacturer, we can make these applications work in sales and after sales. And if you're a retailer group, we can do this, et cetera, et cetera. I think the most important thing for us is that the data that's available and the conversations that are available and all of that data can come into a single environment, whether it's Salesforce or whether it's a different system. And that's what we're doing with agency.
Okay, well, listen, with all the companies you got, if I've got this right, CitNOW Group, you got 44 OEM partners, 16 million videos I've seen. I believe you're in 64 different countries, if I've got those numbers right there. What are the key factors that you look for when you're looking at one of these businesses there? When you're acquiring a businesses, what are you looking for?
So the business is split into really 4 different sections. Conceptually, at the moment, is the easiest way to explain it. We've got point solutions, which are individual pieces of software that operate in the sales channel, and point solutions that operate in the after sales channel. So, and they could be anything from we've got an auto imaging product which just lets you take video and photography to put onto autotrader.co.uk, for example. You can have the CitNOW video in your showroom and so on and so forth. And you can have RTC in the workshop. So all these point solutions are available, some of which communicate with each other, and you create, we don't have a single platform, but you create the basis of a conversation, or you create the basis of a piece of process for the retailer. So having those 2 platforms, we put bookends on the end of them. We've got data and insights on one side, and we've then got conversations on the other. And those 2 products, those 2 platforms effectively communicate and help to gather data on the sales and the after sales point solutions. So our strategy is, today, our software communicates with 2 million people a month, are spoken to, emailed, messaged, videoed off our platforms to these 64 countries around the world, and it's increasing. And all we want to do is look to enrich that conversation with more choice for the consumer and something that's going to help the retailers to sell more. That is our fundamental basis of what we do, and we will continue to go on the acquisition trail for more businesses that help us to do that, not only in the UK but also overseas as well, with our core markets really being Central Europe and the UK. Although we are in North America, we're also in the Far East, we're in Africa as well. So we operate through a reseller market for those markets in the Far East and for Africa, but it does help us to keep to understand trends in various organizations, various countries. They are different. The European markets are different to the UK markets, so you do have to make sure that you keep your ear to the ground and have software that will operate in the right markets.
Some of the companies, though, there must be crossover. I'm looking at DealerWeb, Auto SLM. Then you've got, well, I'm just looking at the list of companies you acquired recently, RTC. You've got Quick, Dealer Desk, Reef, Toodle, AUB Imaging. I don't know if you pronounce that UB or AUB Imaging.
Auto Imaging, that is, yeah.
Thank you. There must be a challenge. I'm just looking at Auto SLM and then DealerWeb. You've got competitors there. Is that a challenge to integrate all of these into CitNOW Group?
No, not really. I think that we have the concept of having the best products in the marketplace. We want to do that. We'll also acquire what we call book acquisition. So if there's a platform out there that's got a number of retailers using a particular platform, we would look to acquire that in certain circumstances to migrate them across to DealerWeb. In the instance of Auto SLM, we've actually kept the Auto SLM business alive because it's got a great platform for people who maybe want something a bit different to DealerWeb. So it gives the retailers choice. We've also got a reasonable number of independent retailers using the Auto SLM platform, but also retailers who don't necessarily want all of the complicated interfaces that could exist in other CRM platforms. So it's just giving the retailers some choice. And we'll continue to do that. We'll always look for best in class. We want to be market leading software providers, and it will be, some of them are geographical. So the dealer desk business is only ever going to stay in Germany. It's much harder for us to bring a CRM platform to the European market because of all the legislation when it comes down to selling vehicles. But it's a lot easier to run a lead management platform or a lead response platform across Europe because you're just measuring a response mechanism. So these things are, they're a little bit easier, but there are still a few gaps in our sales and our after sales journey that we'll look to fill over time.
Okay then. So when you're looking at a business then, what are some of the things that you're looking for? Is it going to integrate into the business? Are you looking at the people there? When you turn up there and say, okay, this is the gaps I want to fill there, we're looking at the businesses. What do you start looking for, Alistair? Is it more the people or the product?
It's about the product and the space that it fills. I think that what we've seen is, and I'm not going to sit here and divulge our M&A strategy, but I think that what is important to us is that we understand where software can help retailers, and we understand from our own perspective and our investors' perspective on the gaps that we have in our current platform, and we're looking to provide, solutions to retailers that help them. That's what we're trying to do. We don't just want to put on cost to the retailers, but we can give synergies to those retailers where we're providing more than one system, and we can join them together so they can have a seamless approach, and they don't have lots of individual point solutions that don't integrate with each other. So it's always a challenge, but our philosophy is to help the retailers to sell more.
So what's some of your non-negotiables when you're dealing with staff, when people are either with the group or coming into the group there? What's some of the things that, Alistair, is a non-negotiable? CitNOW Group, this is what we do. Do you have any of those?
So I think listen, I'm going to kudos to Jeffrey here. One of the things that Jeffrey brought in was the culture that he inspired and led within CitNOW. That was one of the things that CitNOW is renowned for, was the culture that it has. And I feel that in a software industry, it's been for some people, it's never been necessarily the first thing, but our people are first. That's what we do. We very much focus on the culture of our team. We've over 300 people in the business today that are either talking to customers, helping us build software, processing our invoices, and generally keeping our business together in one piece. And it's a challenge, especially when you've grown. Pre-COVID, we actually had our first conference since COVID hit in February this year. So in February 2023, we had 250 of our 300 people and colleagues in the room, and November 2019 was the last conference that we had because of COVID, and we had 80 people in the room. So wow. we made some really tough decisions in COVID to try to help both our own team and also our retailers. We didn't shut up shop. We actually tried to bring more products to the market, but we also looked at our team and gave our team some more time to try to work. We had to try and save some costs. We went through a very challenging period like everybody else did. But we kept our business going, and out of the back of it, we were very successful in going through an acquisition strategy that really started with DealerWeb in the back end of 2020, and most of our acquisitions have come from the last 2.5 years. though. It's been a whirlwind, Sam. And there's nothing easy about integrating businesses. I'm sure all the retailers out there that have bought other retailer groups have bought the business, knowing that the business has got good sound people in it that are good operators. And eventually, what you want to do, you either go systems first. So some of the big groups put all their systems in first, and then they bring their culture, and their culture is massively important. I'm sure there is not a retailer group out there that doesn't want people to buy into their culture, and I think that's the one big attribute that we bring, as well as attempting to be, and most of the time we feel we are best in class with the software that we bring out.
Yeah, Peter Smythe, again on his interview, he said, acquiring a business, he said, it's culture, culture, culture. He said, you're having to get the culture right, and it takes so long to get that right. And it's the number one priority for them there.
100%.
So this question is for Aidan. Aidan's 25 years old and just started the motor trade. He's had 3 whole days in the motor trade. And he was talking about his video, and he went on that first, okay, and was learning how to do video and so forth. And I said, funny enough, I'm interviewing the guy who's pretty much the behind video there. And I said, anything you want me to ask him? He said, yeah, what advice would you have for 25-year-old Aidan in the Bolden's Group in Ireland? What would you do if you're in his shoes?
So, Aidan, my son is a year older than you. He's 26. He 12 months ago, same age as you, he made the bold move to move. He was in Liverpool at the time, and he moved to London. So he took a big step to go and do that. And he went to work for a big company. He went to work for Gartner. He'd gone through a long interview process, and he's had a year in London. And funny enough, I was talking to him the other day about this. What's changed in the last year? You know, if you could tell yourself, your 25-year-old self, what to do differently to being 26, and okay, maybe slightly cynical there. What would you do? And the thing is, it's a balance. Okay, I think from Aidan's perspective, he's going to be trying to prove himself. He's trying to make sure that he's seen in a good light, etc., etc. And I think that 25-year-olds today, it's challenging. You know, they've got a different culture. They've always got their mobile phone in their hand, whereas when we were in the showrooms, there wasn't a mobile phone. We didn't have one, but we had to be seen to be always talking to or attempting to talk to customers. It's slightly different today. But Aidan, I think there are going to be, again, we're basing this on the fact that the culture of the organization is going to help drive them in a particular direction. But I think it's personality. I still believe that if what you can do is aim to be, listen, you've got 2 of these and 1 of these. And whilst I do talk a lot, I do listen. And I think it's really important when you're talking to a customer. So Aidan, if you take an inquiry from a customer, listen or read what they've written, make sure that you understand what it is they're looking for. And whilst in the early days, we would say to a customer, a dealership, don't ring the customer to ask them whether you can send them a video, just send them a video. You've got a couple of choices. Some retailers today are simply sending a response video and then offering to do a more detailed walk around on something that's specifically of interest to them. So you can do a 5-minute walk around on the car and then say, listen, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, if you'd like me to go and spend some more time in the rear luggage area where I can show you how much luggage space you've got, or whether you can fold the back seats down, or what it would look like if I'm sat behind the driver's seat and I'm 6'1", etc. Make sure you process all of those questions through your video, and then send it to the customer and ask for some response, ask for feedback. It's a lot easier for the customer to ask you to do another video than it is for them to get in the car and come drive. Mm-hmm. And certainly through COVID, we've seen many customers adopt an approach where dealership customers, they will use videos as a way to help them sell cars where they couldn't visit the showroom. So some of these tactics are still there, but I would just encourage Aidan just to, reach for the stars. Just make sure that you be positive, be confident, ask lots of questions, be inquisitive, but also when a customer asks something, make sure you deliver against it. Don't ignore it and don't walk away from it. So
great advice. Great advice. Now, listen, most of our audience are investors, dealers, senior managers. That's who our audience really is. And Aidan, sorry, this is no disrespect to you. I'm sure you want to listen to this as well. But same question. What advice do you have to the investor? Listen to this now. Over the next 5 years, if let's say that you sold CitNOW Group, you did an IPO or whatever's in the future there, and you said, right, I want to buy a dealer group. What would you be focusing on, Alistair, over the next probably 12 to 5 years in a dealer group?
So I'm not the resident expert on how retailers will buy other retailers. I mean, I've seen it. We when we were in that business didn't do it, but I've seen lots of people go through that.
I don't mean that, but if you did own the dealership, what would you be focusing on? So the investor who's got the dealership, what would your focus be if you did own a dealer group?
Got it. Okay. I honestly believe that the world of the retailer now is about efficiencies. It's about efficiency and how they can it's not the language of cost cutting is not about just spending less on pens and pencils. This is about trying to work out what you can do to make those efficiencies. And the most expensive commodity that is in those retailers, apart from stock, well, maybe or maybe not with agency, is all about people. So if those people can be more efficient and you can improve your productivity because of that efficiency, then I feel that's going to be beneficial. Now, that's different in sales and after sales. So in an after sales environment, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you visited lots. You can stand in a workshop in a workshop controller's office or in a service manager's office, and you can tell how well a retailer operates their workshop. And because it's not necessarily about shouting and screaming, it's about everybody knowing what's happening and everybody seeing what people see are doing. And honestly, I was in no plug intended. I was in Williams Jaguar Land Rover dealership by the Trafford Centre a couple of months ago, and they've got the RTC paperless environment for their vehicle health check and their entire workshop management platform. And the service advisors are calm. The service manager is efficient.
Service advisors calm in a Land Rover business. Wow, that's.
They are, and they were one of the recovery hubs as well. So they're getting all the Land Rovers dropped off to them, weekly. So, yep. But they had their finger on their pulse. There was no where is the job card for Mr. or Mrs. such and such. They knew where everything was, and I feel that after sales environment is about efficiencies and productivity. And then in the sales environment, I feel, yes, listen, you don't need, there's no rocket scientist that needs to say you need to buy better. So any of the dealer groups out there that have got, efficient ways to buy vehicles, we all know that the art of selling cars is to buy them right.
Yeah.
So then it comes down to how can I ensure that more customers buy from making inquiries? And I feel it's about opening the channels of communication. So if I want to go and buy a vehicle today, I know I've got to do one of two things. I've got to send an email or I've got to ring the dealership. Mm-hmm. Well, why can't I send them a WhatsApp? Why can't I just, we all today, I mean, if I asked you over the weekend.
Yep. WhatsApp.
That's it. I mean, so why not? Why can't we offer that? And indeed we do. We have a platform that allows a retailer to have a channel which has got everything in it, everything from their emails to their SMS to WhatsApps. Even what I was talking about with My BMW, the My BMW messages all come into the same platform, and you can respond back the way that the consumer responded to you. So I would say to you in a very short wrap, sales is about conversation and after sales is about efficiency and how I can mitigate some of my costs and make everybody more efficient. That's what I would be doing. I know I'm not in the retailer, but that's what I would be doing. Now, whether there are retailer groups and dealer principals and service and sales managers out there who disagree with me, I'll get a barrage of messages. But that's my belief.
Yeah. Listen, that just leaves me to say thank you so much for this. I really, really appreciate the time.
No worries, Simon. Take care.
That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bokert through LinkedIn. Thank you.